I apologize for the wait. We were waiting for people to join the session. Now I think we can get this session started. To introduce myself, I am Akila Dadwai, PharmD intern, Arya College of Pharmacy, currently doing my internship at Department of Pharmacotherapy and Translational Research, College of Pharmacy, University of Florida. I give out a very warm welcome to all the attendees of this session. I hope you are containing yourselves and aiding your families and people around you to help overcome this pandemic. While we deal with the situation, we also need to make sure that we still keep ourselves updated with our education and make our sessions, make ourselves available to productive sessions like these. And good news is that we have eminent people around the globe who are coming from different walks of life to educate and share their experiences to the students and students throughout the globe. So coming forward, they're coming forward to share their views, experiences, and of course the knowledge to the students across the globe. So while I'm saying this, the sect of students that are being affected the most is the ones like me. I mean, the ones who are going to be graduated in a couple of months, or maybe they're graduated and waiting to join a company and seeking for opportunities to explore. In the light of this, Remedium Laboratories has come forward to bring about a few informative sessions which will keep students or job seekers to see the unseen. Yes, I'm talking about the very session on medical writing. So let us know about the experience or while I'm talking about this, I'd like to know your experience or maybe the current knowledge or understanding that you have about medical writing as a field. So you could, a point to be noted, you can always share your concerns and post your comments about medical writing or any concerns that you have regarding this field while throughout the session. And your questions will be addressed at the end of the session. So to talk about my experience before we get into the session, I would like to share mine. Uh, I would not say my experience, but I would say my understanding. So I think all the PharmDs out here will relate to my understanding about medical writing. So because PharmD is a clinically oriented course, and the ones which and the courses which we think are not clinically oriented, we think that it's not relevant to us. So I was just like that, and I'd not even take an effort to look into it. And even if I had to, I'd not get that opportunity because, to say an example, I've been to many conferences throughout my PharmD, and there's not a conference where I heard about a session on medical writing, or even I spoke to a medical writer in himself. So that is, I think, it is one of the most unseen and unknown uh, professions for for medical students and pharmacy students. So, but now that I have to, for this conference, now that I've spoken a little to the speaker of our session before the start of the session, I started feeling that this is for sure something interesting. So let's discover this all together. I'm as excited as you all are to know more about this. And before we start, uh, I'll introduce you to the man behind this initiative, that is Dr. SRUJAN Kumar. If we get to the next slide. So this is Dr. SRUJAN Kumar. To talk about him, he is a doctoral graduate in the Department of Pharmaceutics. He has got his B Pharmacy and M Pharmacy from SRM University and a PhD from Bhagwant University. With more than 7 years of experience, teaching experience as an academician, he is also a recipient of DST grant, and he has published several national and international articles, and is also an author of the book entitled Pharmaceutics for PharmD. And he's the founder and CEO of Remedium Laboratories. He has recently started a YouTube channel named Teachings of Dr. SRUJAN, with his vision to disseminate the knowledge of pharmaceutics and PPPK, which is biopharmaceutics and pharmacokinetics, knowledge to students He has taken this initiative, and to make the best use of this time, he has planned for webinars. So stay tuned for more such webinars like this. We'll be having a lot more informative sessions to enlighten the students. So moving on to the bio of the speaker of today's session, Mr. Rahul Adi Vishnu. He is a principal medical writer from Germany. Uh, so, Mr. Rahul Adi Vishnu is an M.Pharm. He has got his M.Pharm from SRM University and an advanced PG diploma in clinical research and regulatory affairs from James Lynch Institute, Singapore. So, to talk about him, he has started his career as a trainee in scientific writing, responsible for preparation of abstracts, posters, medical information letters, and then moved to regulatory medical writing, where he writes and oversees the preparation of clinical submission documents that are required for marketing authorization, approval of medicines by health authorities. So, with more than 9 years of experience, I would say 9 long years of experience in this field, Rahul writes clinical and safety documents that are required for marketing authorization, applications of medicines by health authorities, including US FDA, EMA, and PMDA. He is a key contributor in writing submission documents for 8 successful regulatory approvals. Also, he is an expert in several therapeutic areas and writing clinical study reports in different phases of research. With this note, let me introduce you to our speaker, Rahul, and he's going to take over the session forward and enlighten us in this path. Over to you, Mr. Rahul.
Thank you, Akila. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. And hello, viewers. Myself, Rahul, and I'm a principal medical writer working in Germany. I have around 9 years of experience, exactly what Akila just mentioned. Today, I'm here to talk about medical writing. Most of us may or may not have heard about medical writing and may or may not know what to do to become a medical writer and how does it work. So the prime motive of today's webinar is to make you guys understand what is medical writing, what do you need to have to become a medical writer. Okay, out of all these professions around the world, why medical writing? Why it is so important? How much difference it will make for your life? How satisfactory you will be pursuing this career? So these are the different kinds of questions we would like to answer during this webinar. And before I start the serious things, let me give you a brief introduction on how I became a medical writer. I was also in the same phase of life as you guys are. I'm studying pharmacy by chance, not by choice. I want to become a doctor, it didn't happen, and then I ended up doing pharmacy. Different thing, okay. Then I was always wondering, okay, I'm doing pharmacy, and all I know at that time was, okay, I finish B.Pharm, M.Pharm, and I go to a wet lab, work in an formulation R&D or analytical R&D, QA, QC, etc. and all. That's all I know. Or I just become or work in a hospital, etc. I never knew that a profession called medical writing exists. So I finished all my studies, went back home, enjoying my summer holidays, etc. and all. And one fine day, one of my good lecturer, he informed all the students saying, hey guys, we are having campus interviews at our college. If you're interested, please register and then come to the college on so and so time. So out of my excitement, I went there, read the job description, and I was surprised. Okay, we have to write something. All right, let's face it. Then I attended the interview, and at that time, all the skill I had is a good communication skill and a robust understanding of scientific aspects of drug research and pharmacology. That's all I have in my hand at that day. And then I got selected in the interview. Then I started as a scientific writer, moved to medical writing, regulatory medical writing. And now after 9 years, I'm at a stage of principal medical writer where I'm capable of writing almost all kinds of regulatory documents. So don't worry, even if you don't know anything about medical writing till this point, we were at that point of time once upon in our life. So let's go and see what we have today. First question, what is medical writing? Probably you must have read over the internet and then have brief understanding on what it is. But let me explain you a little in detail. Yes, it involves writing scientific documents of different types, which includes, and this is just an overview, so don't take it too hard or think that this is it. So there is a lot in medical writing, a lot of variety, a lot of procedures, a lot of documents, etc. and all. This is just to give you a brief idea on what it is. First thing, these documents are required for drug approval process. All right, the bigger question is, fine, the drugs are being manufactured or they are in the research, and then scientists or the researchers know, okay, this is working well. But how the regulators know that the drug is working well or it is not working well, etc. and all. So there should be a kind of medium to pass on this information, scientific information, which is in the research to the regulators so that they know and they approve the drugs, and then the drugs come into the market to treat different diseases. So as a medical writer, we play a vital role in marketing authorization of various drugs and treating diseases. So what is medical writing? Writing scientific documents related to research and educational and promotional literature as well. For example, if a doctor needs to know something about the drug, how would he know? There should be some kind of a material which is developed on the drug so that he can read, or the medical representatives or key opinion leaders, they go to the doctors and pass on this message. Again, the same question, how would a medical representative or a key opinion leader know this information? Somebody has to write it, somebody has to document it. So medical writer does that job and then pass on this message. So this is in brief about what is medical writing. And I actually covered a part of this question, what does a medical writer do, in my previous slide. But in detail, yes, medical writer writes this stuff, but how? They have to write it effectively and clearly describe the results, product use, and other medical information. It is not same as journal writing or some kind of a blog writing or anything. This requires a special skill. So that is why a medical writer is really important. Other thing is, as I explained, all the readers are not same. They have a different level of understanding. For example, if you have to talk to a doctor about a drug, all he needs is, okay, this works for this indication, and how much dosage I have to give. What is the route of administration? Can I give this with other drugs or not? Will there be any kind of drug interactions? What if a side effect comes up? So this is the information which a doctor needs. But think about regulatory authorities. They want to know every single detail about the drug. They want to know the phase 1 data, preclinical data, phase 2 data, phase 3 data, etc. and all. And once they are satisfied, then they will approve the drug. So there, the level of detail should be really, really, really high. And take an example of a patient. When you put all these medical terminologies and show it to a patient, a layman, he or she doesn't understand what it means. So then again, medical writer have to tailor it down, keep it simple, and straight up to the point so that the patient understand what it is. For example, a patient information leaflet. It is written in plain English without any complex scientific terminology, etc. and all, so that the end user understands how to use the product. So this is really important. Next comes, yeah, fine, this is really exciting. I got to know about medical writing. I know what a medical writer does. Now I want to become a medical writer. What should I do? So this is what you need to become a medical writer. First things first, qualifications. They are required for everything. So if you are a doctor of medicine or dental surgery, Ayurvedic or anything else, if you have a doctor in the science, you are eligible. Next, PhDs are welcome. PharmDs are welcome. B.Pharm guys are welcome. M.Pharm, B.Tech Biotech, M.Tech Biotech. Everybody who has a scientific background degree or master's or a doctorate, they are eligible to pursue medical writing as a career. Next comes the domain knowledge. Fine, yeah, I have a degree and now I can become a medical writer. No, you need to have a special skill. Those are, you need to have a robust medical and therapeutic area knowledge, because a medical writer every single day deals with different kinds of products, different therapeutic areas, different mechanism of actions, different things. So to understand those concepts, you should definitely have a robust medical and therapeutic area knowledge. Next comes the thorough understanding of drug development process. I will explain you why this is important. Most of us, when we are in colleges, we know, okay, there are some phases of drug development. It takes so much of time to develop a drug, etc. and all. But what exactly happens in each phase of drug development process? We never ever thought of that. And what are the different kinds of documents which are required in each phase of drug development? For example, you have a molecule in your lab and you test it on animal models. It is working fine. And then you have to go to a regulatory authority and say, hey, this is working well in preclinical models, and we would like to experiment in humans. Please give us a permission. And there is an application for that. Who writes that? And then the regulator asks, hey, please send us all the information which you have on preclinical models, etc. and all. Then we'll see if it is feasible to continue your research or not. Again, who writes those documents? We are required in every single phase of drug development. Most often, I mean, sometimes the clinical teams does medical writer job, they do everything, etc. and all. But most often we are definitely required there. Next comes statistics. I don't recommend to have a course in statistics to become a medical writer, but I want to explain the importance of statistics in medical writing. All right, we are doing some kind of a research, we get to the results, and how do you prove these results are robust, these are reliable? You have to attach a statistical model to that and prove they are statistically significant or clinically relevant, so that the regulators, they understand, okay, this is fine, this is working well, and we can trust this information. But as a medical writer, you also need to know how these statistical functions are useful to interpret the results. So that's the level of understanding you need to have on statistics. So it is not a trivial thing, but if you have this kind of a background, it will definitely be useful. And next comes the concepts of medical terminology, knowledge of relevant guidelines, structure and contents of different kinds of documents, etc. and all. This is really important again. If you search on internet and find any kind of clinical study report or a protocol or anything, those will have different kinds of medical terms. And those are most commonly used, and they are used everywhere to make it unique. So you have to understand the terminology and the guidelines. Every country is different. For example, US FDA has its own set of guidelines for facility submissions. Same as with EMA, European Medicines Agency. And for Japan, Australia, India, everybody has their own guidelines. So it is always good if you have an understanding about these guidelines and the structure and contents of different documents so that you can do your job better as a medical writer. Next, this is really important. What is the role of a medical writer? He communicates the scientific knowledge across various laying functions or people, communities, countries. So when you do that, you need to have exceptional communication skills, which include, first and foremost, writing skills. So you have to be really fluent in written and spoken English. Your document should not contain any kind of spelling mistakes, punctuation errors, grammatical mistakes, poor sentence construction, flaws in English. When you write documents like that, believe me, the reader will not have any kind of interest in reading what you have written. And then whatever you have done goes waste. So you have to have a comprehensive writing skills to become a medical writer. Next thing, as we are dealing with clinical research and scientific data, we need to have a highest attention to details. And okay, as a medical writer with a understanding about the scientific concepts, etc. and all, we know the data. But when we have to express this thing to the reader, then we have to organize all our thoughts in a logical way so that it is simple to understand by the reader. The next comes interpretation skill. The clinical research data is not really easy to interpret. Yes, there are some easy stuff to interpret, but most often they are complex. So you need to have a skill to interpret that complex scientific data and write it in a easy and logical way. So these are the three bigger communication skills you need to have to become a medical writer. Don't worry about it. I have an example of clinical research data in my presentation. When we get there, I will explain you why it is complex and why you need to have interpretation skill there. Let's move on to the next one. Again, it's the same thing. You have to have a very good writing skill to present the information in a clear manner. And again, you have to have the audience, the target audience in your mind when you're writing something. You cannot write the same thing for all kinds of audience. Next comes interpersonal skills. Yeah. Teamwork is really essential because as a medical writer, you always work with different teams. So programmers are there, data managers are there, statisticians are there, clinical team is there, pharmacovigilance team is there. So these are the guys who feed in the required source documents to write the scientific content. So you always work as a team. So you have to have a team work as an interpersonal skill to become a medical writer. Next comes the responsibility. So you as a medical writer cannot leave anything on the others to get your job done. So you have to take responsibility for the documents you write and get the work done. Leadership. Most often, medical writer leads the document writing process. Yes, the document owners are different. The clinical team or anybody, they are the owners, fine. But you have to lead the process. So leadership is also important. You have to work with team, you have to take the responsibility, you have to be a leader and most often self-motivated. And of course, you should be flexible. Most often, medical writers are under tremendous pressure of timelines. So there you have to adjust and be flexible to write and do the job in the given or stipulated time. And next comes patience. Yeah, there will be so many challenges while you write the document. So you have to be patient, you have to be assertive and get the work done. And most importantly, time management. All the regulatory documents, they have a strict deadline. No matter what, you have to complete the document in the given amount of time. All right. So now as we have spoken more about what do we need to become a medical writer, next comes, yeah, Rahul, you have told us a lot about medical writing, but why should I choose medical writing as my career? So to address that question, we'll say you can learn every single day with every single kind of document. Every single document is different. Every single therapeutic area is different. Every process is different. So there is no single day in your life you learn a new thing. So this is really important. And as a medical writer, you are always in demand. So new drugs will be in research, they come to the markets for our lifetime. As long as the pharma industry is there, we are there. And the regulatory processes are not simple, they are really complex. So there is always a demand for a medical writer. And this point, we can work independently or be employed as a full-time professionals. It is applicable more to the experienced medical writers. For example, as an experienced medical writer, you can go freelancing and the pharma companies will give you a job, you do it in your own pace and then get it done. Or you go and join a company and work as a full-time employee. Last but not the least, this is the really important point. By doing this, you are serving the society by getting the medicines to the market to treat various kind of diseases. So especially for me, if you ask me, this is extremely self-satisfactory for me. You are doing something for the society. Right, now that we have talked about why medical writing, let's see where we can find the opportunities. Yes, pharma companies, healthcare product companies, including medical device companies. Yeah, everybody needs a medical writer. For example, Novartis, Pfizer, Eli Lilly, all the big pharma giants in India, they do a lot of research. And to translate that research information into a meaningful communication, they need medical writers. And there are always CROs, BPOs, KPOs, which again work with bigger pharmas, and then they get a part of their work and get it done and submit to the big pharmas. So definitely there are opportunities in CROs, BPOs, and KPOs. And there are some other companies called scientific content and healthcare communication companies. So you can find it there also. Media, publishing, journals, etc. So these are the places where you can find opportunities in brief. And of course, healthcare websites. You can write scientific content for websites. We can do that. Yeah, it's part of medical writing. Right. Once we get a job, what are the different levels of hierarchy or roles. So you don't have any kind of experience, and then you join a company, you'll be offered a trainee job or a junior medical writer role or an associate medical writer role. And then once you join there, once you gain experience, you grow up as a senior medical writer, expert medical writer, and principal medical writer. So these are the independent contributor roles. Here, you will not have any kind of reportees or any other responsibilities. The only responsibility you have is write the documents assigned to you and then submit it. And next comes the managerial roles. So as any other company, you have manager, senior manager, group head, site head, director, several things. So you have a lot of vertical growth in our profession. That's the point of having this slide. So you cannot be a medical writer, just a medical writer for whole of your career. You have growth. Next, much bigger question. Yeah, I become a medical writer, then how much I can earn? For this, we have an European Medical Writers Association in Europe. So they conducted a survey in 2017 to see how much a medical writer across the globe earns. So that is the data from approximately 300 medical writers across the world. They are situated in different areas. Majority of them are in the UK because it's an English-speaking country. They have a big market for medical writing, etc. and all. And next comes Germany. But see, in India or Asia, the percentage is really less because we are not aware and we are not improving our skill set in that direction to become a medical writer. So if we have that kind of a skill, attitude, and required qualifications, why not? India has a much bigger market for medical writing. Next, this is just for your information, and this is from a publication which is publicly available. So a medical writer, this is in euros. A medical writer with less than 2 years of experience, mean income would be around 45,000 euros a year. So greater than 2 to 5, around 60, 61, and if you have more than 15 years of experience, you'll have 83. But these are just mean, and if you see the range, they have a big range there. So this is just to give you an overview. Don't take these numbers as serious, but this is from a survey, and that's it. And if you want to know the salaries by role, as I said, there are different kinds of roles: associate medical writer, junior medical writer, senior, principal, manager, etc. and all. These are the numbers based on the role or the designation. Well, you may ask me, hey Rahul, you're talking about income for European companies or medical writers. What about India? This is just a snip from Glassdoor. Everybody has access to Glassdoor. You just go there and type in average salary of a medical writer in India, and you'll find this information. This is again an average based on just 26 salaries updated on 10th June 2020. So this is just a kind of snip to give you an overview of how much a medical writer can make. Next, while we have spoken a lot about the background, what do we need to have, how do we work, etc. and all, let's see a few examples about the most common type of documents a medical writer write. One of them is the common technical document. Common technical document is a package of various documents related to the drug research, which contains every single aspect of the research. And this is the document which the regulator requires and sees when they want to approve a drug. what it contains. This is the CTG triangle. Module 1 will have regional administrative information like any prior meeting notes or references and all the other administrative stuff. And of course, it has an RMP also, but I will talk about it a little later. And next comes module 2. The pyramid here, these are all module 2 summaries, all these things. You'll have an overall quality summary, which is 2, and then non-clinical overview, clinical overview, non-clinical summary, and clinical summary. These are all module 2. Module 3 contains information about the quality aspects of the drug. Module 4 will contain non-clinical study reports. Module 5, clinical study reports. As I explained, Module 1 contains administrative information, quality, Module 2, non-clinical and clinical. So these are the summary documents. And if you want to have more detailed information, then go to Module 3 for quality detailed information, Module 4 for non-clinical detailed information, and Module 5 for clinical study reports, which are detailed clinical information. So this is the structure. And now that we have spoken about different documents, let's see an example of one or two documents. First, I would like to talk about patient narrative. Maybe you would have already heard the pharmacy students or somebody on the call. You know how a patient narrative or case study, case report looks like. It's the same thing. So it should have patient identifiers while we write. Yes, who is this patient? What is his number? Is he male or female? What is his age? Etc. and all. Then it should contain information about the treatment or the intervention given to the patient. How much, what drug he was given, how much it was given, in which route it was given, when it was given, all this information. And next comes the medical history and concomitant medications. Okay, the patient, before taking this drug, does he have any kind of medical complications? Or while taking this drug, did he take any other medicines which reacted in a different way and created or has given rise to the adverse event? Next comes, okay, what are the adverse events which the patient experienced? What are the serious adverse events? What are the adverse events which led to discontinuation of the medication? And next, depending on the drug and the class effects of the drug, some drugs might have adverse events of special interest. And of course, the severity is, next one is death. Is the patient alive or dead? Why he was dead? Which was the cause, etc. So, for all these different kinds of AEs or events, you need to have the nature. For example, are they serious or non-serious? Intensity, are they grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, etc. And outcome of the event, whether they're resolved or ongoing or what happened. And what happened with our medication? Did we continue it? Did we discontinue it? Is it because of this or not? That is the causality. So a patient narrative should contain all this information. And the clinical teams or the safety teams will give you all this information in bits and pieces. Based on that, you have to write a summary, which should look like this. So, as I said, what is the investigational product? Drug ABC. How much? XMG. Which route of administration? Subcutaneous. When it was given? Date. When it was stopped? Date. What are the events reported? Okay, ischemic colitis, fine. What is the preferred term? Ischemic colitis is ischemic. And what is the case number? This is the case number. Now you have to write a story saying this patient was so and so years old. He has this kind of complication like B-cell lymphoma, and he experienced one serious adverse event. Okay, before that, he doesn't have any kind of medical disorders. Fine. Prior or during the study, he was treated with various medications. These are the concomitant medications. And these are really important for a physician to know, to have an understanding about the serious adverse event, whether it was happened because of this concomitant medications, or is it because of the chemotherapy drug which we are giving. So this is how you narrate a story. And then you talk about this is adverse event. On so and so date, the patient was diagnosed with abdominal pain, and then grade 2 ischemic colitis and serious adverse events, etc. and all. So once you explain what exactly has happened with this adverse event and the outcome, then you come into what we have done with our research drug because of the serious adverse event. No treatment was reported, and drug ABC is the research drug. It was continued. So, and then what are the drugs patient has received to treat ischemic colitis? Okay, these are the drugs. And after reading all these things, the investigator and the sponsor thought the serious adverse event of ischemic colitis is not related to our research drug. Good. This is exactly what we want to know. Next, let's take a look at one more case study. This is a clinical study report. There are different kinds of studies, phase 1 to phase 4, conducted during the drug development process. One among them is a bioequivalence study. For example, there is a drug and we have one more drug, and to show they are equivalent in all aspects, we conduct a study. So that's like a randomized double-blind crossover study to compare the PK and PD bioequivalence of a single dose of X and Y in healthy subjects. The whole study result is based on one key output, and that looks like this. These are the number of patients in drug X arm. These are the number of patients in drug Y arm. And after analyzing their blood samples, the area under the curve of this drug is this much. And this is where the statistics also come into play. So least square mean, what does it mean? That's the level of detail you need to understand to write this complex data into a meaningful communication. So the ratios of geometric mean, why are they important? What is confidence interval? So these are the points you need to know when you interpret the clinical data. Long story short, only one thing here is you need to look at the 90% confidence intervals, and FDA and EMA have a cutoff for these confidence intervals. If these confidence intervals are between 80 and 125 for all the PK parameters, then you can say both the drugs are equivalent in all aspects. So that's the key message. Based on these analyses, drug X and Y were equivalent, and the 90% repeated CS for drug X and drug Y fell completely within the predefined bioequivalence limit, 80% and 125%. If you look at here, this is 96, 112, 97, 130, 97, 114. All of these are within this range. So once they are in this range, you can say they are bioequivalent. That's the key message. And if you want to know more about medical writing and want to develop medical writing as your career, you can visit these websites, read through, and if you have any questions, please come back to us and we are more than happy to help you. Few of them are ICH. All the medical writing revolves around ICH GCP principles. So that's the main website which you should go. And of course, if you want to read something about region-specific guidelines and other stuff, you can go to USFDA site and EMA and the other professional organizations. There are professional organizations where you can register and get some courses done in these and become a medical writer. So this is one way. I think I am done here. So I will hand it over to Akila again.
I really thank you so much for an amazing session. I would say this was an eye opener for me, and it would be the same for the viewers who are listening about medical writing for the first time. I think most of the myths about medical writing is open now. I mean, people are clear about what it is. With this coming forward, I would like to say my experience. I thought medical writing and medical coding are no different. But now when you have gone through all the slides explaining right from what medical writing is exactly about and ending up with the career, if useful resources that you need to follow if you want to make your life and career, that is uh, amazing, I would say. And the best part of the presentation for me personally was case studies that you explained. And with the case studies that you explained, I would say that we are no different from this. I think we are totally into it. And if someone who is having good skills in writing, as you said, as you mentioned, good skills, and of course good content about the subject that they read, I think this would be an amazing session field for them to start into. And with me saying this, there are a few more people who are even more excited and curious about this as I am. So we have screened a few interesting questions, and we'd like to take a few of them. And in any case, if we have missed any questions or there are any more questions for you to be addressed, viewers can always reach out to us through the emails that are provided. So we'll take a few questions now. Um, so, sir, one of the question is what is the difference between regulatory writing and medical writing in terms of approach for a person?
Sure, Akila. So regulatory writing, medical writing goes hand in hand. They are not different. But one thing which I can tell you is there are different kinds of words in the market to describe the work we do. The thing is, if you are predominantly writing the regulatory documents like CSR, CTDs, clinical summaries, overviews, briefing documents, etc., and all, more concerned with the drug approval process, then that comes under regulatory medical writing. But if you are writing some kind of a scientific content for conferences like abstracts or posters or manuscripts or for journals, then that comes under scientific writing. So basically what we do is the same, but just the matter of word difference. That's it. Yeah, they are different, but it is purely based on the kind of documents you write. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. So, as an extension of the first question, I would like to ask. So, you have mentioned about two case studies in your session. One is related to the clinical part, where it is completely clinically oriented one, and the second case study that you have discussed is about pharmacokinetics and BBPK.
Yeah.
So, if someone is a clinically oriented person, does he has to also be oriented towards the pharmacokinetic parts of the drug, or
It's all,
yeah,
it's all same, Akila. Thing is,
okay,
it comes under clinical aspects. So the first one, the patient narratives, comes into safety, patient safety.
Okay.
But the second case study, a clinical study report for a bioequivalence study, it's a clinical document, but they both
Okay.
go hand in hand. For example, in the same CSR, if you have a serious adverse event, you need to write a patient narrative, which will be appended to that clinical study report. So a medical writer has to write the pharmacokinetics aspects, etc., and all in the clinical study report, and then have to write the narrative and attach it to the document. So it completes the whole process. So they are not separate, the same thing. And if you really want to go into safety and all, pharmacovigilance is there. So that specifically deals with all kinds of drug safety, all kinds of drug safety documents. So if you want to pursue that, then you go that in that direction. And if you want to become a medical writer, you're flexible. You can write any kind of document.
Yeah, that is clear now. I'd like to ask. We have three questions which I'm going to sum up together and ask you. So there's a question from Muthusami. He asked, "Is age a barrier to get into medical writing? Whether experienced people would also be given a chance?" And I would also include uh, how okay, okay, let's take this. And yeah, the second question is how to get into medical writing. Do we need to take any tests? So I'm summing up these both to repeat it. Is age a barrier to get into medical writing? Whether experienced people will also be given a chance. That means this person has experience in other field and he wants to get into medical writing now. So will he be given a chance? And the second one is, there are any exam entrance tests that has to be taken if you want to be a medical writer? Over to you.
Okay. First thing, age is never a factor for medical writing. I have seen with my own eyes in my personal experience in my company, there is a person who is around 45 or 50 years, and then she wanted to become a medical writer. She joined the company as a junior writer at that age. And after 5 years working in this company, she became a senior medical writer. So if you have a right skill, right amount of qualification, right attitude, there is nothing to stop you. Only thing is the companies need to think a bit open and understanding and give chance to a person who really has the talent. So if that happens, nothing can stop. Second one, switching the career. I mean, I understood it that way. So a person who has experience in, for example, programming or data management or pharmacovigilance, and he or she would like to switch to medical writing, yes, of course. If you really know the basic concepts of medical writing and your writing skills and communication skills are good enough to become a medical writer, and if you can showcase them well during the interviews, yes, why not? They they can get jobs. I mean, I can't give a guarantee here, but it cannot be ruled out. And coming to the third question, what is this, Akila? Sorry, I have to ask you again.
There are any entrance tests if you want to qualify as a medical writer?
Nothing as far as I know. There are no entrance tests or anything, but you have different kinds of trainings and certification programs available across the world. So you can try those, and then they will back you up like an additional qualification which you have apart from your academic degrees. But as of today, I don't know. I mean, I never heard about any kind of entrance tests or exams.
Yeah, thank you for that. And there's another question uh, from Deepa Lakshmi. What is the scope of a PhD graduate in medical writing? Do they have any leverages? I'd like to repeat it again. So what is the scope of a PhD graduate in medical writing? Will they have advantages or leverages above others?
It's actually a very good question. I mean, it purely depends on case to case. So if you go to a smaller CRO and you being a PhD, you already have some kind of publication experience, etc. and all, they may consider you um, to a senior associate position. Yeah. But if you go to another company, their thought process may not be as same as these guys. So they can say that, hey, you didn't have experience in regulatory writing. We are specifically working or looking for a regulatory medical writer. So maybe we can offer you a junior writer position. And once you finish your 6 months probation or so, and then if you come up to the speed, then we will offer you a medical writer or a senior medical writer position. So it purely depends. But as a PhD, you already have some kind of a publication experience. That always helps.
Thank you so much for answering this.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take one last question from Nadia.
Mhm.
I would also take the leverage of extending it. I mean, elaborating the question that she mentioned. So she asks, like, is there any training that is required for a PharmD? So I want you to address it for all the other degrees. But if she has taken about PharmD as an example, I would like to say in PharmD, we are exposed to all the concepts that you have discussed about a medical writer should have. So in the light of that, what would you say? Like, we are exposed to clinical part of it, we are exposed to uh, regulatory affairs, and we are exposed to clinical research. We have statistics, so we have epidemiology. So we are exposed to all those subjects as a PharmD. So, will a PharmD, as an amateur, get into medical writing without any course requirements or any other additional benefits? So, that is the question. And I would like you to answer this in light of other fields also.
Sure, not a problem. Actually, as a Farm D, yes, you have a lot of understanding about drug research, approval process, etc., and all. But you may not have understanding about different procedures of drug approval process for different countries, and you may not have seen different kinds of documents. For example, you wouldn't have seen a clinical study report template or a protocol. Maybe yes, because you go to hospitals, etc., and all. So even though you have sound knowledge about all this background thing, you don't have hands-on experience. That limits all the freshers. So everybody who wants to become a medical writer and they're fresh out of college, they have to, I mean, this is not really mandatory. When I became a medical writer, I never did any kind of course. So I joined a company and then learned a lot. But now the competition is so high in the market. So to overcome those kind of competitive opportunities, it is always nice to have something extra in your hand. So that something extra could be a certification on medical writing or clinical research or pharmacovigilance or anything that will help you to crack interview rather than just attending as a fresher and then proving yourself, etc. and all that helps, but that is not mandatory. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think, yeah, this is clear now. While you're saying that, in one slide of your presentation, you spoke about different qualifications. Uh, I mean, different sets of people that can get into medical writing field, and the top of it was written MBBS and MD graduates. So that makes it a very competitive stream for us to enter. So it's not very easy.
Yeah.
It is not easy said than done. So when this is raised, it leads us to a very big question. Maybe I don't think this could be answered in this one session. The question is, how do we start our career as a medical writer? Now that we have the knowledge of what medical writing is and what the process is and what are the resources, and then it leads us to a big question: how do we start ourselves in the career in the field of medical writing?
So I think I have given all the information for all the
Mm.
viewers in the webinar on how to become a medical writer. I've shown you many things, shared my own example, and I've talked about what do we do, how do we do, what do we need, etc. and all. So once you have all these kind of skills and qualifications and right attitude and interest, etc. and all, um, the only way I see is approach different companies, see the job postings, and then apply for them, and to have cutting edge in during the interviews. You need to have some kind of an additional certifications. They always help. And when you do these kind of certifications and all, you will be more prepared to answer the interview questions. If you go as a fresher there without the background or complete knowledge about medical writing and documents, templates, sections, style, etc. and all, it will be really difficult for you to answer the questions. But when you do these kind of short courses, etc. and all, you are much more prepared. So that's one thing which I recommend.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
We have a few more questions, but I think we covered most of it in the session. So you could always re-listen to it and get to know about different parts of the session where sir has addressed many things. Um, and I think this was a really insightful session that we had today regarding medical writing. And I hope we have good more such sessions like this. And moving on to the next slide, uh, we have made sent out registration forms to attend the session. So e-certificates will be provided to the participants who have attended the session. But for some security reasons, we are not pasting this feedback form, which is linked to your each certificate. So I think we will actually send it out to your emails. So the ones who have registered for this session will be given feedback forms. So after filling the form, you will be redirected to your email certificate, which will be there in your inbox of your Gmail account. I think this is about it. If there are any questions or any concerns, and if there's anyone who has not registered and is attending the session, please reach out to us. Email link will be provided in the chat box, and I forward this keynote presentation to our moderator, Dr. Srujan Reddy, who's going to end the session with a vote of thanks. Thank you.
Hello everyone, myself Dr. M.SRUJAN Reddy. I hope the session gone well. A big thank you to our keynote speaker for that informative talk, Mr. Rahul Vishnu, for making this session insightful. And I'm sure the viewers present here have a lot to take away from the session. And I would like to extend my thanks to Satyavardhan Rao Nitu and Akila Dadwai, PharmD interns from University of Florida, for making up this session to this level. Round of appreciation to all the viewers attending this webinar. Please subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming informative sessions.